Welcome to the Heads Together podcast. Do you like me singing it every week? I might sing it a bit better next time. I feel like my jazziness level has gone down slightly. I'm going to be definitely more jazzy next week. I'm not redoing this week, so you're going to have to accept that beautiful lilting song as the intro for this week. Anyway, thanks for joining me again. You're going to be glad you did, especially the coaches in the audience, because this week I'm joined by the fabulous Steph Durbin. Steph is the co-founder of the Coach Directory, which is an online directory for coaches. Does what it says on the tin, right? Oh, I just love Steph. She and we have a very, very similar outlook on the coaching industry. We had having a fabulous conversation this week about the directory because I really wanted her to just share a bit of her story around her path, which is similar to mine. She's a business advisor and consultant. Steph is she's a UK national and international executive business and personal development coach. And Steph, like me, is very committed to her own personal development and also the development of coaches within the coaching industry. And we talk about, our unregulated coaching industry and how we're both very passionate about raising the standard of the industry so that clients who work with coaches are getting the best possible experience they can. Steph is ICF accredited to PCC level, and she's also a qualified coaching supervisor, which we will also talk about in this week's episode. I can't wait for you to meet her. Without further ado, let's dive in. Welcome to the Heads Together podcast. I'm Jill Mokes, and I am obsessed with cutting through the noise when it comes to growing your business. Each week, via intimate coaching conversations and inspirational stories, I share what it really takes to get the results you want in a way that feels right to you. I am all about attracting higher ticket opportunities, building authentic relationships, and creating the abundant, full-fat version of your dream business. I mean, how many of us have beavered away creating a light version of what we really want? The thing is, I honestly believe when you're outstanding at what you do, there is no limit to what you can achieve. So, are you ready to put our heads together and make it happen? Let's go. Steph, hi, thank you for joining me.
Hello, Jill. Nice to be here.
Oh, I'm thrilled to have you. So, I was just explaining that you and I have a fairly similar background, really, don't we? We're both from like a corporate a background, and then have both made the transition into coaching. So that's why I'm really thrilled to have you on this week, because first of all, I'm can't wait for you to share with people all about the Coach Directory. But also, I would love it if you would just share with us a bit about your story from that corporate time into how you've ended up doing what you do today and what that is, of course.
I had a fabulous and very varied career with the cooperative group based in Manchester, but I was based all over the country for some time of that. Started literally on the shop floor with them and worked my way up the corporate ladder and was given ample opportunity to develop myself and develop people and build teams and departments, set things up, run transformation programs, and had a really exciting and varied career in doing that. And then I reached my late 40s and decided that I still had time to do something completely different. And for me, self-employed, that was kind of what my driver was. Had some considerable time out in 2016 just for medical reasons. And inevitably, when you have time out, you have plenty of time to think and reflect. And that's when it kind of all came together for me. I worked with a coach at the time. who helped me to work out what had made me both successful and motivated in my career, what had led to the achievements, and what was I all about, what got me out of bed in the morning. I think at the time we came down to about 5 key kind of personal brand single words that described who I was. I've actually narrowed it down to 2 since then. And the 2 things that really made me successful, one was commerciality. I'm a mathematician, so I always had a bit of an eye for the numbers, but I also love innovation. So new ideas and building business cases to support that. Absolutely love that. And then my second one was all about people, developing people, succession planning, talent, recruitment, just had a natural skill at being able to do that. So those 2, commerciality and people, came together lovely for me when I decided to go into coaching. Fitted really nicely with the clients I wanted to work with and just the type of work I wanted to do. So I qualified as a professional coach with Barefoot Coaching at the beginning of 2017. I've done most of my professional training with them since then, most of it with them, including qualifying as a coach supervisor a couple of years ago, I now have that in my portfolio as well. When I was doing my training, that's when I had this innovative light bulb moment of an online coach directory. I thought it would be a really great idea. And my cohort, over a bottle of wine in the pub one night, were like, "Oh yeah, Steph, you really need to do this. You'd be great at this."
That's where the best ideas are born, isn't
it? Yeah. I think so.
I have my best ideas fueled by wine.
Same here. And then I realised, in my naivety as a new coach just training, I realised that actually there was quite a lot of online directories out there already, and thought, right, well, actually, I'm not in a space to get into a competitive race with any of the other directories that were already established. And I wanted to focus on building my practice and building my professional reputation. So I did do that for a few years. And then I happened to have a conversation with a very interesting person who had just built an online directory in the USA for real estate agents. And in talking about that and how it worked, the challenges around that, it kind of struck me then. I was already now sort of 3 or 4 years into my coaching journey. Kind of struck me that there was an opportunity here to do something rather different that wasn't like the other coach directory. So I don't see myself as a competitor, because I see myself as being quite different. And there's room for us all, because many coaches list on more than one directory. So we set on the journey of developing something a bit different. Kind of spent quite a lot of time myself thinking about what was important to me. If it's going to make it different, what is it about me that's going to make it different? What can I do and what can I offer? It all underpinned around the kind of giving back to the industry, supporting coaches, and raising professional standards and awareness. That was kind of the real root of it all. So we set about building it, and we built it. And we had great results on Google. Before we even had coaches on board, we knew that the site was really well constructed. And then we launched formally this year. We went through quite a robust test and trial process, and then launched it earlier this year, reaching out to coaches, new coaches and established coaches to join the directory. And the launch has gone really well. We're really pleased, and we're pleased with what we're doing and what we're providing for our coaches in that online community.
One of the things you just mentioned was about the things that were important to you, was around the kind of professional standard of the industry. And I think, we all know that coaching isn't a regulated industry, which in my opinion makes this, what you're doing, even more important, doesn't it? It means that, we have to self-regulate as an industry. Do you see that as an important part of what you're doing?
I see it as the most important part. I think the responsibility that we have as coaches, first and foremost, the responsibility that we have for our clients and for ourselves, and the need to to take ownership of that self-regulation is really important to me, and that's why we set that as our minimum standard for joining the directory. So we're looking at those coaches that do invest in their development, that are accredited with one of the international coaching organisations. That there's quite a few that are acceptable in our eyes, and for us, it's all about the code of ethics. Is the primary thing there that coaches sign up to and live and breathe by, really high ethical standards when they're coaching, because that's the right thing to do for all of our clients, and for our clients to know how important that is.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us a bit about the directory itself. So what does it consist of? What would it mean to be a member of the directory?
There's quite a few elements to the response to that question. The most obvious thing that you can see if you go to the website is that coaches that are a member, they have their own profile page and they can be found online, and that's the I guess the primary measure is that coaches are being found online, and coaches that join, often that's the one thing that they're really looking for, is that visibility.
For new coaches particularly, I think, quite often I see people who are passionate about coaching, but they're not business savvy, particularly at the beginning. And the thought of having to wait until they've got an all singing, all dancing website, until they've got their, email service provider set up and their marketing every week, and that slow burn, that's quite overwhelming. I think that's enough to put a lot of new coaches off from the industry, because it is quite a steep learning curve, really. If you are not a business coach, if you're more of a life coach, a health coach, all of that, those kind of coaching niches, you're not necessarily super business savvy. So I think it really lowers the bar for good coaches to begin serving clients quicker if they have a way of becoming visible without having to wait for the perfect website to be finished.
Absolutely. I think the risk of procrastination, not even the risk, the issue of procrastination in newly qualified coaches comes up all the time. Probably half of the new coaches that I speak to probably have exactly that challenge, which is, I'll do it when my website's live. I know I need to work on it. I know I should. And we sort of try and pull back from what they think they should do to actually, what can you do now? As well as the question of what does a perfect website look like? Because actually it's probably good enough now. So that this conversation happens a lot with the coach directory. Well, they have that online presence like straight away. So actually they could join and have that landing page before they've even got a website. They could use it purely as their only online presence if they wanted to. We have got a couple of coaches that do that, exactly that. So then they can put aside that worry of being perfectionist about their website and procrastinating about their website. They can put that aside, just get that online presence started.
And focus on coaching clients, because that, I think, is the biggest thing I see, is that procrastination is the right word here as well. There's a massive procrastination. I don't think it's always the same answer as to where that comes from. Sometimes it is genuinely not feeling like they can until they have this website ready, because they want to portray the right image, whatever that is. But sometimes I think it's deeper than that. Sometimes I think there is an anxiety around actually coaching clients and then people will tend to use the delay tactic of not being ready, because of website or whatever it is, to delay actually coaching clients, getting the experience. So I love the fact that what you do is take away some of those barriers for people. If someone joins and has their landing page, their listing with you, what have you done about the SEO reach of those pages? Is that something that you work on behind the scenes?
I talk to my coaches about the 3 layers of quality SEO and premium SEO. Now, I'm not an online marketer and I'm not a tech person. So a lot of what I say is in my version of layman's terms, but I also know that it works and people understand it. So it starts with the behind the scenes on the website. So the coding and the no redundant code and the page load speeds and all of that stuff that Google need to know that it's a quality enough site. That's how we get sort of pushed up the rankings. That's the first and foremost. The second layer is the content on the site. So that's what the coaches would be aware of. So on their page, it's how they write their bio, what they put in their bio on the page, and they own that completely, and coaches can edit that and add stuff to it all the time. And the keywords that they use and the tags that we use. Keywords associated to Google searches, and then the tags are associated to when a potential client lands on the site and wants a coach of a certain type or in a certain town. So we assist with that. So the coach owns it, but we'll absolutely give advice and make sure that it's the right quality of content, as well as the other content on the site. So the blogs that are written, the articles and guest blogs. So wherever we can, we mention a coach that's a member. So again, that's kind of enhancing how many times their name might appear, which enhances the probability of them being found. And then the third piece that we do with SEO, which is just as important, is what we do outside of the website. So linking to our coaches' websites, linking to other places that are relevant, and having them linking back to us is really important. So we're seen online as collaborating with these other businesses. So this enhances the coach's likelihood of being found. And then we do a lot of our interaction, a lot of it on LinkedIn. Wherever our coaches are is where we will hang out to make sure that we're maximizing how much they can be seen.
Yeah. So you're kind of supporting your members on LinkedIn as well with.
Yeah, absolutely. When they list with us, once it goes live, we make sure that it's indexed with Google. So Google see the new page quite quickly for us. We've got a very fast turnaround with Google at the moment. And if they make changes to the page, the same thing, we'll make sure that it's re-indexed as quickly as we can. We're very aware of how important it is that online content is accessible and visible and out there.
I love that. One thing that's come into my mind as you're explaining that, Steph, is how it's funny, isn't it, that things happen for a reason. I feel like that idea coming up for you the first time, I wonder if you would have had the tools and the team around you back then that you have now, which has resulted in this carefully constructed site. Because for this kind of thing, an online directory, it's not like throwing up a website, is it? There's so much more to it in terms of the back end of things. And I can just tell, we've spoken before as well, and I can just tell how much thought goes into the back end of the operation, as much as goes into the front end, really, because without that back end operating as it should, in terms of all those things like the Google indexing, all of that kind of thing, then your members aren't going to get the results that they're hoping for from being a member. And I know that's important to you as well, isn't it? Just making sure that people are getting that value.
Absolutely. It was so important to us that after we'd had the site built, we tested it for a year to make sure that we got all of those questions answered, to make sure that Google were seeing it the way that we wanted it seen. It's the kind of the high standards piece as well. Not only we talked about high standards of coaching and self-regulation, but that also for me follows through into the website and what we do. I don't want to deliver a half-hearted attempt at something. It had to be right, and I want our coaches to feel that it's right and that it's working.
This is why I so wanted you to come on and talk about this, because I think you and I are quite similar in that code of ethics is so non-negotiable for us, and it spreads into every part of what we do. I think it would be easy for less ethically driven people to try and pull this kind of thing off. to try and see it as, here's an easy way to make money. I'll just get people and I'll just throw up a website and I'll take people's money. I'll promise them. And I suppose this is what I love about the coach directory is that, well, mainly I love it because I know you sitting behind it and your high standards. But I think this is a platform that does everything. You do everything in your power to deliver on those promises to your members. And I just think that's refreshing in an online arena where that's not always the case.
I talk to coaches about not wanting to be an anonymous database. We don't want to just hide behind a spreadsheet of coaches. And you're right, that could be done and uploaded to a website, and you never have any human interaction with the people that are actually running it, unless your credit card expires, maybe.
Yeah.
So we didn't want to be anonymous. We didn't want to just be a database. And we absolutely are committed to it being a personal service. Every single coach that joins us has this personal one-to-one, face-to-face relationship with me and with the team. Often we're a small, perfectly formed organisation, made up of kind of the web development side, and then the admin and marketing side, and then what I do. But talking to my coaches is just so important. And then when we're engaging, like on LinkedIn, they kind of know who they're engaging with as well. So that's more personal, and it comes across more personal. So it's more authentic in the conversations we're having online.
Isn't that just like a win-win for everyone as well? I'm just thinking about that. Just thinking about LinkedIn, for example, because your coaches know you and feel they can jump in if you're putting something, I don't know, maybe you're putting something promotional for the coach directory onto LinkedIn occasionally. The members, because they feel they know you, Steph, behind the coach directory, they're going to be jumping in and commenting. So it's such a win-win. Not only is their visibility being raised, but the visibility of the directory gets raised just by virtue of the fact that it's so genuine, the interaction, because they have got to know you personally. So I really like that about it too.
What I find with LinkedIn as well is that I have the privilege now, and I see it as a privilege, of being able to comment and share on coaches' material, both as the business and as me, in fact, as me as a professional coach and as me as a person. So, we've had everything in the last couple of weeks, from talking about supervision and the integrity of coaching and qualifications, right the way through to a comment I made on somebody yesterday about dreams. So a personal comment about dreams, but it's still me, the individual, and me, the coach, and me, the coach directory. It feels like a good place to be in, to be able to interact in that way with the coaches, especially the newer coaches who are still dipping their toe in the water of how should they be using the online platforms and how do they grow their reputation.
Yeah, absolutely. Does community form part of the directory membership? Do coaches get to do they get peer-to-peer support together? Is there a community they can join?
The main community piece at the moment, the main one, is the online supervision that gets offered. So all of our coaches get offered a quantitative online group supervision. That's obviously not compulsory, and I couldn't make it compulsory, although in an unregulated industry, I hope that one day it does become regulated, that coaches get it.
You and me both. Yeah, I think we think the same about that, don't we? I wish the coaching industry would become regulated. I would be absolutely all for it. I think we have to start prioritising the standard of coaching that clients get. So,
and that's what our online group supervision does for them. It gives them that opportunity in a very non-judgmental, confidential arena to just talk about the stuff of coaching, depending on whatever the theme is, the supervision theme is. We cycle through a framework of supervision using a recognised model. But then really I let the coaches in those environments kind of take the conversation where it needs to go for them. So the coaches they're getting to know each other. It could be a completely different group of coaches that turn up every time. That's just the way it works. We have a maximum of 10 on any session, but they're very personal. And those coaches that turn up regularly are getting to know each other. And that's one of the things I love about the coaching industry. We are possibly the least personally competitive industry of any that I've ever worked in. And I've worked in some quite competitive industries. And I'm very much am I a facilitator? Well, I'm a supervisor, but I'm an observer and I'm a participant. That's a nice community feel.
Yeah, I love that.
And we're talking at the moment about whether to do more informal type of like online community work. So I don't know, like coffee drop-ins or Friday wine time or
nice.
And we're exploring with the coaches what would work for them in terms of just somewhere where we can just hang out together. Probably like it's a bit like informal supervision, really, and it is a bit like informal peer-to-peer.
Love that. I really like that because I genuinely think entrepreneurial loneliness in general is a real thing, particularly now, you know, when so many of us work remotely, you know, our teams are remote, because the online world has become so noisy. And just going back to that, you know, there is a very low barrier to entry now for starting an online business of any kind, and coaching in particular. There's really no barrier to entry for setting yourself up and calling yourself a coach. And I think the problem then becomes that those coaches who are committed to their personal development and to investing in being the best coach they can be for their clients, those coaches, the kind of coaches that you welcome into the directory, they want a community around them of people who think like that. They don't really want the risk of joining a flipping Facebook group that's stuffed to the gills with people who are just wanting to promote what they're doing. I would imagine not many directories offer that. Am I right in saying that?
There are a couple where they've been set up maybe by the coach training provider. So if an organisation has delivered a training programme that's then certified and credentialed by them, some of those have an online directory, and as part of that offer, they have supervision included. I have come across in fact, I've got a couple of my members that actually have supervision from that route as well. But it's not usual.
No. I think it's a very nice touch. Yeah.
I didn't quite see the importance of it when we first designed the platform, and then I did. I can't even remember how it came about. I think we were talking and exploring how do we add more value and what skills do we have already in-house that will offer more value to coaches, and it just seemed like a no-brainer when we actually realised, hang on a minute, I'm qualified, I'm doing this, and coaches aren't getting it. And one of the supervision could be a whole nother conversation, really, Jill, but the barrier to coaches getting supervision, some of that's quite deep in the coach, maybe the fear of judgment or the fear of failure, or they're just exposing themselves if they
I think it's that exposure, isn't it? It's feeling exposed, the fear of feeling judged.
And the biggest barrier for some coaches is cost, especially the new coaches who are already having to work out where do they spend their money on marketing, and do they join the directory? What's their return on investment going to be? Supervision isn't cheap, nor should it be for what it is.
Absolutely.
But so to be able to offer it as a benefit, it's something that I'm doing anyway, then it really did seem like a no-brainer. It's the right thing to do to make it accessible to all coaches, and breaking down those barriers, that it's not a scary place. There is no judgment. Like, we have confidentiality as the number one rule for everything we do as coaches with clients. It's exactly the same in supervision. Confidentiality and no judgment.
Yeah, a really safe space.
And unless you've experienced that, if anyone has any doubts, unless they've experienced it, they don't realise just how safe that feels to get stuff off your chest.
Maybe I'm just thinking that obviously my listeners obviously aren't all coaches. I know I have a lot of coaches that listen in, but for anyone who isn't a coach, maybe we should just explain, perhaps you could just explain what you mean when you call it supervision. I just suddenly became very aware that we were using something that we as coaches completely know what that means. And there will be people listening thinking, oh, why do they have to be supervised? What are they doing?
No, it's not like that at all. But I guess the one word that's just popped in my head is there's something here about oversight. So a coaching supervisor will have the experience of coaching, have the experience of their own clients and case studies. They'll have qualified as a coach supervisor, hopefully, just like all our coaches have. So there's something about overseeing what coaches do. Now, for coaches, it's probably easier to talk about it from that perspective. From a coach's perspective, supervision helps them to stay fresh and up to date. It helps them to face some challenges that they might have as a coach, some things that they're not sure how to deal with a client, or things they've done or said to a client that have sat uncomfortably with them, or things they didn't say to a client that sits uncomfortably to them, and then exploring them. So why didn't they? So very similar to coaching the coaches in those kind of examples. And it's not always exactly like that. It's not always about coaches bringing problems and challenges. It can just be about learning about new frameworks and tools and hints and tips. It can be about December, we're doing well-being of coaches. Like when we mentioned about being a lonely place as running a new business, as a coach, you put all of your effort into helping your clients, and you're carrying that on your shoulders with no one to really talk to about it. And that's where supervision gives you a really safe space to be able to just offload. And the well-being of coaches, that's our first well-being session in December. I mean, really, well-being of coaches runs through all of our supervision events anyway. But that's a good place to check in with coaches about how do they look after themselves? How do they turn up for a client session being them their best selves, to be fair to their clients, so their clients get the best experience? And then how do they look after themselves after a coaching session? How do they compartmentalize, reflect, or all of the other many things they might do after a session, but how do they do it? Supervision for us is a combination really of the ethics and standards, information and education, and then well-being. That's kind of the three headlines that we talk about. And if our coaches can come to our sessions and benefit from all of that, then they're growing as individuals. Versus the flip side, which is they don't get any of that. They qualify 10 years ago and they do no other learning. They have plenty of clients, but they don't develop themselves or look after themselves or challenge themselves or expose themselves in a safe, might be an inappropriate use the word expose themselves there, sorry.
Oh, I'm all about exposing myself.
Yeah, so it's that, it's helping coaches to feel that it's okay for it to be difficult sometimes.
Gosh, absolutely. I could not agree more. The thing that I think is so important with this is that if you're offering that kind of peer-to-peer support, that supervision, isn't it just so important that that these are like-minded coaches? These are coaches who share that same commitment to the code of ethics, that same commitment to personal development, and this is why I really love this whole concept, because it's basically doing some of the hard work of finding a community of like-minded people around you as an entrepreneur, as a coach, without having to just be set free in the wilds of the internet to try and track down people like you. You're doing a lot of that hard work by making sure that you're attracting the right people to the directory. And I just love that, I love the amount of thought that goes into this from every aspect. So I suppose that brings me on to thinking, so we've talked about what happens behind the scenes of the directory, which is really making it the best, optimize the best for SEO that you can, being mindful about who you invite to become members, and having some eligibility criteria for that. Giving each person their own landing page, all of those things that go on behind the scenes. Then there's the actual coaches themselves. What about from the perspective of a client who is looking for a coach? What kind of coaches are there? And, how do clients find coaches via the directory, I guess?
It's a really interesting conversation, and one that we've gone quite deep into in terms of a client journey. So there will be very few clients that just think, I need a personal coach and there must be an online coach directory somewhere. Let's find one. Oh, there's a coach. Done. It's very, very unlikely that that's the client journey. The client journey probably starts with something like, how do I develop my resilience? Or what is imposter syndrome? Or because they've heard it somewhere.
That's it. Yes.
Yeah, they don't realise that they need a coach or that a coach is a good idea.
No, they don't realise that could be the solution. No.
That's exactly right. And then even when they land on that being a solution, that could take months of, okay, so there's actually people out there that can help me with this. Because ordinary lay people that aren't in the coaching industry and probably don't even have access to understanding what coaching can do for them. So it can be a long journey. And then it's okay, so how do I find a coach? Well, that journey then it can be because they might ask friends. I think that's where the referral bit comes in. Or like me, first thing I always do is Google. And then they might then come across the fact that actually there are online directories for coaches. Boom, great. That's kind of what we're hoping for. But they don't necessarily know it. If you're not in this industry, you wouldn't necessarily know that this is how it can be operated. And then when they find a coach directory, what we need is that experience when they land on our homepage as a result of coming up on the front page of the Google search after maybe many months of trying to work out whether they want or need a coach at all, is making sure that experience then, the first time they come to our site to find a coach, is satisfying enough for them that they come back again, because they're highly unlikely to click and send an email to the first coach that they land on when they land on the coach directory, because we're humans, we kind of don't do that. And if you're a client new to coaching, you're probably not just going to pick the first coach that you see. You're going to come back and visit them more than once. And we see that behavior on the site where the same addresses are pinging the same coach 2 or 3 times. So we know they're coming back and looking at the same coach before they get their nerve up to actually visit the coach's website or visit their LinkedIn or even hopefully make a phone call or send an email.
Mm-hmm.
So the journey bit is something we spend a lot of time exploring. So if we can understand the journey that clients are on before they make that final approach, then we tailor the website to that journey. We tailor our articles to that journey. We tailor the coach profiles to that. In terms of when they actually land on the site, the other challenge that we have is that clients do not really generally understand the difference between a life personal coach, a business coach, an executive coach, a transformational coach, all of those different types of coaches. That a client doesn't necessarily understand what the difference is. And is there much difference? Because we all use the same psychology and the same coaching techniques. A coach is a coach. We might specialize in a certain area. So to help clients with that, we're quite clear about describing the different types of coach that there are on the directory. So we have 12 categories. Some of them don't have any coaches listed under them at the moment, so we might make those redundant. But we're very flexible with our coaches about what they would like to call themselves from the perspective of, if you're a client looking for a coach, do you really know what you're looking for? So we're quite
interesting,
trying to close that gap for clients, because it's a big industry to delve into if you've never had a coach and don't know anything about what you're looking for.
Absolutely.
And if you do, then that's an easier journey. If you do know and you've done it before, you've had a coach before, it's a much, much easier journey. And that whole piece from exploration to making contact is probably a lot shorter. Because you would know what you were looking for.
And so presumably then what the coaches put on their profiles, the keywords that they're using in their profiles, becomes very important in terms of which is that how it would work. So the coaches who are most suited will come up for a client search.
A client can search. They can search on the coach directory either by geography. So they might want a coach in Scotland, for example, or a coach in Yorkshire or wherever, or there's an interactive map, so they can just literally zoom around and find the coach that they want that way. Or they can search by keyword, so they might type in a phrase that they're looking for a coach that can help them with. So if that coach has tagged that in their bio, then they're going to be found that way. Or they can search by coach type. So if they're looking for a business coach or a life coach, and that's how the search works. So there's kind of 3 layers to it, which makes it easier for clients to find whatever type of coach that they're looking for.
Okay. So from a client's perspective, this is like I love that way that you've looked at it as different journeys. And this is, I suppose, I know I keep harping on about it, but Steph, but I feel like this is what you do really well, which is going deep into the behind the need behind the need and the behind the scenes bit of how this is going to actually work in the real world. And this is why I just want anyone listening, if you are a new coach or if you're an established coach who wants to really look at your visibility and wants this, like we said before, this community aspect, the group supervision, just feeling less alone as a coach. And also, it's not just feeling less alone, is it? Because I think you alluded to this earlier, Steph, about how coaches are so collaborative. I think the coaching industry, that's one of the most wonderful things about it, is that it's very inclusive, very collaborative. If people are listening and would love to find out more about the coach directory, where can they go to find out, Steph?
First place I would direct them to would be to the website. So that's coachdirectory.co.uk. That would be the first place. Have a look at it and have a look at some of the coaches on there and feel the feel of what it's about, having listened to the podcast and then experience it from that perspective. And there's a contact form on there if you wanted to drop us a line and emails. The other place would probably be on LinkedIn. That's kind of our main platform for talking to coaches. And you can connect with me on there, Steph Durbin, and you can connect with the Coach Directory business page on LinkedIn, which is where we do most of our kind of coach to coach social engagement. And then send me a message if you want to talk about it. If you want to know more, send a message on LinkedIn. I manage all of that personally. We don't outsource any of the actual social media engagement stuff. We do that ourselves. That's part of our personal service commitment.
Definitely. I would highly recommend you go and check that out. coachdirectory.co.uk. Is that right?
That's right.
Perfect. Steph, it has been such a pleasure to have you on today. Thank you so much. It's just, I don't know, there's something just so good about talking with other people who are in the same industry you're in, who share the same outlook on that industry and the same passion for raising the standards in it.
We're very passionate about what we do, and we really believe that it's the right thing to do. So that's what's driving us.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. Okay, bye for now.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode and that getting our heads together this week has filled your mind with what's possible. If you love the show, would you do me a massive favour, please? Would you leave a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts? It would really help me put more heads together, reach more ears and expand more minds. Until next week, bye for now.